Today I'm going to teach you how to play Thanatos like a pro. Now, I know a lot of the new players out there are struggling with this amazingly cool character. I've gotten so many messages asking me, how exactly do you play Thanatos? Can you update a Thanatos guide? So that's what we're doing here today. And stick around to the end because I will let you know there's one tip that I'm going to teach you in this video that is going to make you the best Thanatos player that's going to be able to counter anybody in any game mode, no worries. So we're first going to start off with his traits, and we're going to start off with his divine trait, which is going to be Speed Demon. Gain 30% movement speed if you are within 35 meters of a target over 100% vulnerability. Now, if you don't know about Thanatos, every time you are over 100% vulnerability, you gain extra damage and knockback on your enemies, which is a wonderful thing to see. That's why you see a little purple icon or purple color to your enemy's vulnerability. Next thing to note, that also does happen to you as well if you're over 100% vulnerability, so it does balance out. And now we're going to go into the minor traits. Now, the first minor trait we are going to do is Mark of Death. Deal an additional 3 damage to targets over 100% vulnerability. This is nice to just add that extra damage to get people in that zone where it's easier to knock them out of the game. The next minor trait is going to be Cursed Sight. On the hunt, deals an additional 15 damage against targets over 100% vulnerability. Now, all these things you're seeing so far is obviously increased damage over 100% vulnerability, and there's a reason for this, because the last minor trait we are going to use is called Death is Nigh. Effects on you or that you apply when your target is over 100% vulnerability now occur when you are over 85% vulnerability. So now you have a faster and higher chance to knock people out of the arena, do more damage to them, and control the fight. Thanatos is one of the most powerful characters in the game in every single game mode. However, he is extremely difficult to play. Now we're going to go into Greater Blessing. Now there are 2 options for Greater Blessings. The first one I'm going to give you is the one you're going to use 9 out of 10 times, and that is Loki's Celerity, sorry. Gain 15% movement speed and slow effect duration reduced by 15%. Now initially, Loki's Celerity does not actually help Thanatos, but it's my tip that I'm going to give you later in this video that's going to make this super powerful with Thanatos. Now the next Greater Blessing you can use is called Hercules' Strength. Hitting an enemy with a heavy attack grants your next hold heavy or air heavy attack an additional 17.5% knockback. Now Thanatos already has a massive air heavy attack, and this is really what you're using it for. His air heavy attack is great. So adding that extra knockback when you land a heavy attack, as he's kind of a support character, is going to be increasingly powerful when you're in team fights and want to knock people out, but it really depends on your play style. I use this a couple times, not very often, but I use it every once in a while when I want to mix it up for 2v2. In 3v3, I have a special build, which I will link in the description down below. That build is called the Immortal Thanatos build. Now we're going to go on to the best part of the video, which is going to be the tips and tricks. Now, the first tip we're going to talk about is the one that I see a lot of new Thanatos players do wrong, and that is simply the way Thanatos players use their mobility, hovering death. Now, what makes this so powerful is that you have the ability now to glide in the air for a practically long time. You can use this as a dodge, technically dodging people's abilities, coming down, allowing you to get better elevation to hit some aerial attacks on your enemies. However, the mistake a lot of people make is that they reactivate it. You don't really want to reactivate this unless you're in a 3v3 or 2v2 and you really see an opportunity where you can save an ally with it. You just want to hover most of the time, maybe cancel it while you're in the air, come down, hit them with some air attacks, or simply just use it to reset your abilities, basically meaning you're in the air for a period of time where you need to kite around and just gain your composure for the match. Now, the next ability for Thanatos is one of his most important abilities and a very strong ability in the game, and it's called Soul Leech. Simply put, it heals you when you hit your enemy. Now, what makes this extremely powerful for Thanatos is because all of his abilities increases his vulnerability. So being able to heal kind of balances him off and allows you to stay in the game longer. Another thing to note, this is an extremely powerful interrupt, and you can mass interrupt opponents if you stack them together if possible. Now, obviously, this allows you to control the map. So what most people are going to do when they're facing Thanatos players, they're going to try to bait this out so they don't have to worry about it, or try their best to not get hit with it if it comes out to them. So this is what they're saving their dodges for. So what you want to do when you're using it on an enemy, you're going to try to bait their dodge. Maybe you use On the Hunt first, which is your sight ability, or find a way to bait their dodge, and then you use it and collect all that juicy health orbs. Also note, once your enemies are over 85% vulnerability, you also gain 3 extra orbs, and that right there is perfect for healing yourself up even faster. Now, with that being said, this again is something you want to make sure and use when you have a guaranteed chance of hitting it on your opponents. Let's say your opponent is coming in on you and you see them charging you with an ability. You're going to want to ensure you put the location of this ability closer to you. So you're kind of predicting where they're going to be to make sure it lands. And that's kind of the last tip with that. Next up, we're going to go with his next ability, which is going to be On the Hunt. Now, On the Hunt is extremely powerful. Again, this can be used as an AoE or a single target to either do damage or mass knock out your enemies, and it's perfect to bait dodges with them, because if they don't bait the dodge, they're going to take some massive damage. Now, if your enemy is over 100% vulnerability, they're going to take extra knockback and extra damage from this. So again, it's all these things coupled together that makes Thanatos such a beautiful player for all different game modes. And Thanatos is really, in my opinion, you're not really going to lead with him. You're kind of supporting your partner. If you're in 2v2 or 3v3, you're going to kite around behind him, look for opportunities, make distance for him, go in and do damage, or you're simply going to do it if you're in 1v1. You're going to be super aggressive with him, but at the same time playing back and watching if you can take advantage of a mistake your enemy does. Now, with that being said, On the Hunt, when you land this on your enemy, note it's going to knock them back a little bit, even if their vulnerability is lower. So keep that in mind as you need to judge your distance when you're going to re-engage on them. So sometimes I use it just to keep a little distance or bait the dodge. Now we're almost to the part with the massive tip that you're going to need to know how to play with Thanatos to control a fight when you're over 85% vulnerability. But before that, we're going to touch on this right here, which is going to be his aerial attacks. Thanatos' area heavy attack is massively powerful and allows you to knock people out a lot easier than you'd expect. So learning how to land that, how to maneuver on it is very important. You can couple this with your mobility to get more elevation, and this is why your aerial attacks can be so powerful. You have the ability of hovering in the sky and ensuring you get that distance no matter where your opponent is at elevation or on the map. So next thing we're going to talk about, which is going to be his ultimate ability. Now, 9 out of 10 times when you land this on your enemy, once they're over 85% vulnerability and you're close enough to the edge, you're going to be eliminating them out. It's a one-shot. It's the Dark Vader choke you need. So ensure you keep that in mind, because this ability is something you want to ensure you land on your opponents. When you miss it, it's not that great. It means you're going to be struggling most of the match if you were already struggling before, because this also heals you up and gives you kind of a second life. It's a lot of health you're going to be regenerating. So with that being said, we're going to go on to the massive tip of this video, and it's going to be important. This is where Loki's celery stick actually shines. So once you get somebody over 85% vulnerability with this build, you're going to be able to do one of the most powerful combos in the game with the speed demon build, and you're just going to hit this on the opponent. As you're seeing here on screen, you go one light attack, second light attack, you stop, you don't do the third one, and because of the speed boost you have, you're able to literally do this so fast your enemies can't react, and you're just raking up damage on them and they can't do anything. Dodge, it's just impossible to really get out of unless you really practice against it. So again, the combo is simply one light attack, two light attack. Once they're over 85% vulnerability, and because of that speed boost, they won't be able to do anything and they will just be raking up damage on themselves while you're controlling the match. All right, this is it for this video. I hope this helps you out, especially a lot of you new Thanatos players that are messaging me. I really hope this does, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.